This is TechKnow, a show about innovations that can change lives.
The science of fighting a wildfire.
We're going to explore the intersection of hardware and humanity, and we're doing it in a unique way. This is a show about science by scientists. Let's check out our team of hardcore nerds.
I've got a headset on, finger clicker, a heart rate monitor. I'm like a cyborg.
Costa Gramatis is an engineer who's designed everything from satellites in space to bionic eyes. Lindsay Moran is an ex-CIA operative and analyst.
9 divided by 1 minus 1 equals 2.
But she may have met her match.
Hi, Mom.
Tonight, TechKnow investigates distracted driving.
Oh my gosh, I'm driving like a maniac.
They're enticing. New cars with new technologies keeping you connected behind the wheel.
Call JB.
But what really happens when you drive? Costa and Lindsay put their brains
So you'll be able to quantify my brain activity?
and their driving skills to the test.
So what?
What every driver must know
If you get an incoming email, you're part of the problem.
before you get behind the wheel. I'm Phil Torres, I'm an entomologist. That's our team, now let's do some science.
I was doing the warm-up, but I already crashed.
Hey guys, welcome to TechKnow. I'm Phil Torres, joined by Costa Gramatis and Lindsay Moran. Guys, as technology is advancing, we're becoming more and more a nation of multitaskers. And I think a lot of us pride ourselves in our ability to walk and talk and tweet and follow directions all at the same time. But this idea of multitasking is just that, an idea. In reality, we're all pretty bad at it.
Ever since the first AM radio was put in a car, we've had distractions while we're driving. But as technology advances, those distractions just keep multiplying.
Have you ever driven somewhere and arrived at your destination and you were maybe on the phone the entire time and then you realized, how did I get here? Like, people don't even know how bad they're driving because they're so distracted.
So you guys were actually able to put your distracted driving skills to the test.
She is ex-CIA, trained to drive under extreme duress, and even worse.
Why is Ellie in handcuffs? All the obstacle courses the CIA put me through actually pale in comparison to driving while Mom. Costa's never had to do any of that.
He is young, brash, and Gen Y, an engineer who grew up texting and is used to quick startups and fast stops.
Lindsay, as an older person, is not gonna be as proficient as myself. Now we both take to the streets to investigate a clear and present danger. Each year, more than 3,000 people are killed by accidents caused by distracted drivers. But what types of activities cause drivers to lose focus on the road and put themselves and others at risk? We headed to the University of Utah, where David Strayer is a professor of cognition and neuroscience.
Our goal was to try and benchmark the kinds of things that people commonly do while driving to get an understanding of how distracting those things are.
His latest study focuses on voice-activated commands, a feature that's becoming very common in car infotainment systems.
Hi, I'm Bill Goldrick with Phillips Chevy, and today we're in a 2014 LTZ Cruise with navigation.
Car makers and dealerships are eagerly touting this technology,
Call JB.
which allows drivers to speak to their cars in order to do everything from changing the radio station to sending messages.
5 years ago, you could have said, let's separate out the phone and what the phone does from what the car does. They're becoming intermingled. So right now, when I get into the car, my car becomes my phone. I can talk, I can place voice messages, I can talk to Siri.
Using driving simulators, his team measures how mentally demanding different voice command systems are. They use a host of instruments to measure everything from changes in heart rate to brain activity.
There are 32 electrodes on here. It's just basically a modified swim cap. The spots that I'm doing right now are gonna be electrodes placed around your eyes so we can measure your eye movements and your blinks.
The brain signals are remarkably sensitive to how much attention you're allocating to the task of driving and how much is being taken away by talking on a cell phone or doing any of these voice-based interactions.
So you'll be able to quantify my brain activity?
That's exactly what we do.
Then it was time to start the engine for a warm-up lap.
Your job for this is to follow behind this black car right here. That car is gonna brake randomly.
Yeah.
So your job is to just press on the brakes whenever that car brakes, and then just keep following it at a pretty close distance.
This is awesome. This is just like a real car. There's my rear view mirror right there.
Yep.
What does that do?
So you can check your blind spots. You're distracted.
I was doing the warm-up and I already crashed.
Yep.
In addition to measuring my brake response time and following distance, the researchers also used what's called a detection response task device, or DRT, to measure my reaction time. My job was to click a finger switch as soon as I saw the light flash green. At the same time, I used speech-to-text software to respond to messages while driving.
Message from Jeff. Subject, concert. Hey, I was thinking about gift ideas for Sydney. Let's surprise her with tickets.
Green light. Reply. Great idea. Make it happen. I'll PayPal you. I am so popular. Next, I drove the same course, but this time with Siri. Hey Siri, make it a calendar event.
When is your event?
January 16th, 2034.
Okay, what time is the event?
9 a.m.
I didn't quite get that.
9
Okay, what time is the event?
9 a.m.
Shall I schedule it anyway?
Yeah, but ask me what event I want.
Checking. I didn't find any events about but asking me what in the next 3 months.
Okay. Not only did my reaction time to the DRT lights and the car braking in front of me slow down, I also drifted further behind the follow vehicle, an indication that I wasn't paying close attention. Siri seems to have like certain key phrases and words that you have to know in order to really get her to do what you want. So it's kind of frustrating. You're kind of racking your brain. I wasn't the only one who felt talking to Siri was mentally taxing. In Strayer's study, 2 participants actually crashed in the simulator because they were so distracted by Siri. And a lot of these technologies were invented because people were getting a lot of car accidents looking at their phones, correct?
A lot of technology has been put in the car with the assumption that you can keep your eyes on the road and hands on the wheel, but it's kind of neglected that last part of paying attention to where you're going. Basically, we just don't multitask as well as we think.
But why do most people suffer the illusion that they can multitask while driving? While I was busy arguing with Siri, Lindsay was taking another simulation test designed to study precisely this phenomenon.
I'd like you to just drive it like you normally would drive your vehicle. The other thing you should do, since we're interested in what happens to your ability to drive, go ahead and call your mom now.
I often talk to my mom while I'm driving. So this will be very true to life. Hi, Mom. I'm actually doing a driving simulation. Oh, you're watching Dr. Phil? James should be bringing the boys to your house, and you're all set for the weekend? I'm in the simulator. Oh my gosh, I'm driving like a maniac. Yeah, I think James wants to have, oh my gosh, this is very stressful. I'm going through a school zone. I'm having anxiety that a small child's gonna cross my path. Mom, it's been great talking to you, but I'm gonna sign off. My mom says this is the longest conversation we've had in 15 years.
I'm happy to facilitate that.
I realized that even though my mom was talking, I wasn't really listening to what she was saying because I was conscious of driving, which made me think that when I am driving and talking on the phone, as I often do, I'm either focusing on one thing or the other.
Exactly.
What exactly is going on in our brains at times like that?
What we know is that you're really switching attention between the 2 activities. The act of attentionally navigating through the driving scene and paying attention to bicycles and kids and so forth, and the conversation. We ask people afterwards, tell me all the places where you think you made a mistake. So like we would have asked you, how often did you speed? How often did you have difficulty making a turn?
No idea.
And that's exactly the pattern we find. As soon as you put someone on a cell phone, they have no idea about how many errors they make. And so that whole self-monitoring about how good a driver am I, that's lost.
At the University of Utah, Assistant Professor Joel Cooper is testing the impact of voice-activated infotainment systems, now available in many cars. Costa was up first.
I've got a headset on, I've got the finger clicker, I've got a heart rate monitor, and a microphone. I'm like a cyborg.
That's right. We've got a GPS system here with a wide-angle camera, and it's looking out the forward roadway as well. So that'll allow us to monitor your speed, be able to monitor where you're looking as you're driving down the road.
In order to establish a baseline for the measurements, the first task was to drive while only responding to the DRT lights.
And as you drive down the road, this little light here will flash either red or green. When it flashes green, I'd like you just to click the button.
He took us on a loop of residential Salt Lake City.
In addition to driving, you'll be doing a number of voice-controlled tasks.
Call from your contacts, Amy Smith at work.
Call Amy Smith at work. She's always so busy.
And dial your own phone number.
Dial 805 806.
Dialing.
No, you're stupid.
Did you say dial?
No, I said you're stupid.
Play your CD.
Play CD. Turn it up.
Did you say redial? Please say
See, you
yes
don't
or
get
no.
me. You just don't get me, car.
Goodbye.
How'd I do?
So one of the things I noticed as you were driving along is you slowed way down.
I grew up learning how to drive and learning how to text and drive. It wasn't illegal then. How slow was I going?
You were doing 20, which was about 10 miles an hour less than you were doing on the first pass.
But in order to provide context for how distracting these kind of tasks are, study participants must also do an extremely mentally engaging activity known as the O-span.
Everybody who sits in this car gets the exact same pace. In this task, you're going to be hearing some math problems, and we want you to solve the math problems and say whether it's true or false out loud, and then it's going to tell you a word to remember. Here's the critical thing. So after it gives a number of math problems, it's going to say recall, and that's your cue to go back and say dog, fence, bird, or whatever the words were.
2 times 2 minus 2
Green
equals
light.
0.
2 times 2 is 4, minus 2. No, you're wrong. Milk
Recall.
dish. Fast milk dish and scratch. Take that.
6 times 2 plus 3 equals 14.
This is daunting. I didn't get that.
Male.
I'm trying to drive. I feel like I may have gone too far. I missed my turn.
So again, we have this workload questionnaire for you.
How successful were you in accomplishing what you were asked to do? I don't know, what do you think? I can't tell, I don't know.
One of the findings from the research is that people really aren't aware of their own performance. A lot of these streets that we have here, you have the right of way and the car on the left or right has a stop sign. What I observed this time is as you were driving down the road, you were stopping at just about every single block.
Then it was my turn to take the wheel.
So Costa's all about the scientific research, but I'm a highly competitive person.
Okay. So for you,
I'm gonna be
you
most
just want to click
interested-
faster.
I quickly began feeling Costa's pain.
Flag. 9 divided by 1 minus 1 equals 2.
False.
Remember to respond to the green lights.
Car. Recall.
Oh, jeez. Eat was one of the words. Can we have a do-over? This is not at all what I signed up for.
Back on campus, Costa and I made a pact never to do math while driving again. But the O-span task did prove a point.
When we started off with that operations span task, frankly, we hoped we'd never see anything that would be close to it. And now we're starting to see interactions that people are in fact doing while they're driving.
Wow.
What we found was people talking to Siri to post to Facebook and send text messages and so forth. That was a 4 on our 5-point scale.
Trying to coerce Siri into doing your bidding takes nearly as much brain power as doing math while driving.
As I was watching you drive, one of the things I noticed is you are trying very carefully to say things just the way you thought the system needed it. This is all workload. With all of these systems, the systems that are error-prone elevate frustration. And it's especially bad when it misunderstands you and then jumps out and goes ahead and tries to execute a command. Calling your boss. You know?
TechKnow asked Apple about their test results. They told us AAA did not test CarPlay or Siri Eyes Free, which we've designed so users can access the apps they want with minimized distraction. But when we reported our story, only select or limited car manufacturers offered those apps. When we asked Apple what they recommended for those users who only have Siri, Apple declined to comment.
I think all of us as scientists and engineers, we get a little bit competitive, especially when it comes to this technical stuff. So who won?
I can never operate a phone or talk to anyone while driving anymore.
In the realm of distracted driving, there are no winners. Let's have a look at how it turned out.
A little earlier, we had you guys in the car, and we evaluated both of you under a couple of different conditions. So what we found was that in general, Costa responded a little bit faster than you did, Lindsay.
So what does that mean?
And so your reaction time was a little bit slower when you were engaged in those voice activities relative to when you were paying full attention to the roadway. So we saw kind of a task trade-off. On the other hand, Costa slowed way down in terms of his driving speed, but his reaction time was actually a little bit faster when he was engaged in that voice task.
So who won?
It was a tie.
Scientific cop-out right there.
What we can say is that, like most people, when you engage in these secondary tasks, you guys began to miss more lights. And that's what your data show here.
In the real world, what could those misses mean in terms of traffic or accidents?
When you're out there in the real world, you've got to notice children walking across the street, you've got to notice lights changing, you've got to notice changes in your environment. And the problem is when you engage in these mental tasks, you begin to become blind to the situation around you.
There are currently 9 million vehicles on the road with voice-activated systems. By 2018, that number will jump to 62 million. Strayer's study tested systems currently offered by 6 different manufacturers: Toyota, Hyundai, Chrysler, Ford, Mercedes, and Chevy. According to the study, Toyota's Entune system was the least distracting, and Chevy's was the most distracting, scoring 3.7 on their 5-point scale.
Who would you like to call?
There's a woman stuck in there! Don't worry, I'll free you!
I didn't understand that command.
Using a mix of celebrity and humor, this ad for Chrysler U-Connect pokes fun at some of the very shortcomings of the technology it's selling. Other car makers, like Chevy, are trying to target a new generation of car buyers, the millennials, for whom staying socially connected is very important.
Siri, do I have any text messages?
You have a new message from Chad.
One thing that struck me about this ad was how she asks Siri to read a message from her boyfriend and then actually asks to be told a joke. It struck me as this is a whole different experience than one normally imagines you have in the car. What are they trying to say about what your experience in a car should be?
Much of that's entertainment. If we're going to be using voice-based technologies, it probably makes more sense to support the driver and support the task of driving, not to have your car telling you jokes, reading emails. Those are the kinds of things that are best left for the vehicle when it's not in motion.
Right.
But knowing something's unsafe doesn't automatically change behavior, especially when it comes to our smartphones. A recent survey conducted by the Center for Internet and Technology Addiction showed that 98% of respondents said they knew texting while driving was dangerous. Yet, 3/4 admitted doing it at some point.
Why are we addicted to multitasking?
I think there's a number of reasons. One of the ways is because we're bored. And so it's a way of kind of alleviating boredom. But part of it is that in many situations, if you get an incoming email or a phone rings, it's a rewarding signal. It triggers the same neural circuits that are delivering dopamine. And so just like you might find someone who's addicted to gambling because they go in there and get that kind of rush, you get a jackpot or something like that, the same kind of thing, you get this little reward every time you get a phone message or an email coming in.
How can we save us from ourselves?
The first part is to get over the denial of it's the other guy and it's not me. You're part of the problem.
Food for thought, as Costa and I left campus.
You drive so fast.
I do?
Yeah.
You drive like a granny.
Is that how they teach you to drive in the CIA?
A little bit, yeah. We have a whole course called Crash and Burn. But I have to say, Nothing I did in the CIA compared to those distracted driving tests. To me, what was most surprising was realizing just how dangerous distracted driving is. And in fact, texting while driving has replaced drunk driving as the leading cause of teenage vehicular fatalities in the United States, with up to 20% of teenage deaths caused by distracted driving.
There's this fallacy that people believe that you guys show that the more hands-free it is, people think they're safer, but it's not so.
Just like a drunk driver, like maybe they don't know how they got home. It's the same thing for distracted driving. You don't even know how bad you're driving. Maybe someone honks at you and you're like, oh, what's going on?
So Costa, you're the engineer of the group. With all this technology, where's it heading? How can it get safer?
Well, it's incredible research that they're doing is based on actual aviation research, because you're in the cockpit of a plane and there's tons of dials and gauges and alarms all distracting you from the task of flying an airplane. And there's well-documented data on how much of a mental task load you can do while you're flying. And now they're basically taking that research and putting it into the car. What you're gonna see is brand new technologies being introduced to help you be less distracted. Autonomous cars. They're gonna do the driving for us.
I got curious, are there any kind of apps that can essentially save us from ourselves? And I found out that there were. I downloaded a free app, AT&T Drive Mode, and now I cannot respond to texts or phone calls while I'm driving. And in fact, if someone texts me, it will send them a text saying, I'm driving right now, I'm unavailable. It's activated when your car goes over a certain speed.
It's pretty amazing. So as those apps can certainly serve to distract, that one serves to protect. Well, thanks guys for sharing this. It was a very fun competition of an obviously very serious subject. Any take-home message?
When it comes to distracted driving, you're not as good as you think you are.
Exactly. When you're on the road, just drive.
Well, that's it for this episode of TechKnow. We'll have more science and innovation stories for you next time. Dive deep into these stories and go behind the scenes at aljazeera.com/techknow. Follow our expert contributors on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Google+, and more.